Hello, everyone. Welcome to two parts presentation on topic of effective communication. I am Behnam Bakhshandeh, organization development, human resources development, and workplace learning and performance practitioner and professional and executive coach. This is a part one of two parts short presentation for effective communication. I am a firm believer that peace and harmony and fulfillment arise in the background of communication. Love is function of communication. Peace is function of communication. Productivity and effectiveness in teamwork is function of communication. If you notice, we are member of many teams. With our spouse, with our family, in home, is a one team we are member of. At work, in our group, we are member of one team. As an organization, in the company, we are member of bigger team. And in our communities and in the society as whole, we are member of different communities and different teams. So based on my near 30 years experience working with individuals, groups, and teams and organizations, I am emphasizing a lot on effective communication and active listening. In these two-part series, we are just looking at functionality of effective communication. So there is some points that I will cover that I'm requesting you listen and apply to yourself and practice it. I promise you it is working and it will make a difference in your effectiveness in your communication with others. So let's begin. At first, you have to recognize your inner chatter about communication. If you have followed my short videos or my work through the last 30 years, you recognize that I emphasize a lot on the impact of that inner chatter in our head about everything, about ourselves, about other people, about work, about love, about communication, about society, community, everything. And I talk about the characteristics of the inner chatter being condescending, belittling, and negative, literally pulling us down. So when we want to communicate with someone, at first we have to recognize for ourselves what would be the inner chatter we have about communication. Some people say thinking, the inner chatter will say loudly, it's not going to work. They're not going to listen. You're wasting your time. They are not interested to communicate with you. They don't want to take responsibility or anything else that is negative, condescending to the approach, and is belittling to your action. So try to recognize that voice, that inner chatter, which is kind of in the background eating you. You have to hear it to believe it. You have to be quiet and pay attention to what that voice is saying. Usually, our actions are correlated in a split second after we hear that inner chatter. Then we decide what to say or what to do, which most of the time is very ineffective and even damaging. You have no control over it. It has control over you. Inner chatter is part of being human being. I'm not talking about intuition. I'm talking about when you're looking for evidence to be right about why something is not working or why something has to be your way. We all guilty of that. Please don't tell me you have not done that or you don't know what I'm talking about. When you dig your heels down, when you become positional, when you push the envelope to be on top. So recognize that interest and that inner chatter before starting communicating with people. Getting present to what are you doing, that is very important. You have to take a moment and think for yourself, what am I doing? Am I communicating or am I venting? Am I being right or am I want to be effective in this relationship? Are you communicating or just venting, as I mentioned? So many people, which I observed in the last 30 years, they cannot define and distinguish between just talking over someone or communicating someone. Or we just want to be righteous about our point and making other people wrong in what they say or what they think or in the relationship with us, or we are just trying to communicate. How important is it to you that everyone gets to communicate? If you really want to communicate effectively, you will give chance to other person to also communicate about what bothered them about the relationship with you. How much you have a role on what comes out as an outcome of such relationship, personally or professionally. If you notice, people who communicate, especially in an upsetting mode, an upsetting environment, or on the upsetting topic, they don't have that much of room for somebody else to say something. They need to say what they want to say, and they want to move on. And usually, they don't use the form of face-to-face communication. Usually, they text or email, they're upset, or they gossip about you and hoping that somebody who they gossip to gets you the word of they are mad of you or they're upset. Anyway, that's a whole different topic about upset, which is actually, I wrote the book about it, Anatomy of Upset, Restoring Harmony, is my second book that published in 2015. Look for it. I promise you, you would enjoy it. Anyway, let's move on. Acknowledging ineffectiveness in communication. That is one of the major steps to start learning about effective communication, is to be acknowledged, at least for ourselves, acknowledge our ineffectiveness in communication. We don't know how to communicate effectively. Start from, I don't know how to be effective. That's a great beginning. So that would give you opportunity to learn more. When you start from, I know everything, there's no possibility to learn more. But if you start from, I don't know how to be effective, I know little about how to communicate, but I don't know how to be effectively communicating. Create an outcome for the end result of your communication, at least in your mind. Write it down. What are you committed to accomplish out of this communication with this person or this group of people or this community of people? Write it down so that kind of directing you, that statement, that commitment, directing you is a declaration of what are you standing for, and let that direct you throughout the communication and stop you when you are not going in the pathway of that declaration and commitment. Give up your agenda to become effective. We all have agenda when we communicate. I'm not talking about agenda in the schedule, like what is the topic of this communication or meeting. Agenda that in the background, there is something we are righteous about. There is something we want to be right about. There is a point we want to make, and we want to make sure everybody get it. Or there is a benefit we are looking for, either personally or professionally, or even the benefit is a positive one and it's a good one for a team, but then that benefit dominate your approach, your thought process, and your actions in communication that sometimes is ineffective because you are attached to it. By giving up your agenda, you will have freedom in being in communication. If you're letting go of that attachment, that particular agenda you have about this communication, it gives chance to other person, the other party or parties, communicate their points too, and you would get more benefit out of opening the channel of communications and letting people say what they want to say, and most probably you will have a much more positive benefit out of that style of communication. By having freedom, you have no attachment to the end results. Usually, if we are attached to the end result and outcome, we get drowned in our way of being, in what we do and what we know. So we are pushing an agenda that would literally cause other party or parties to be suppressed and not expressing themselves because their inner chatter will say something such as is ineffective. This person is not interested to hear me. He or she never got me. They have an agenda. They're pushing me around or something that blocks their connectedness with you and being present with you. Understand who you are for yourself. In my first book, Conspiracy for Greatness, Mastery of Love Within, I talk a lot about the triangle of being personally effective. In that book, I distinguished that there is 3 points in our life that we are very much affecting our personal effectiveness. One is how do we see ourselves in the world, the way we relate to ourselves. How do we see other people in the world and the way we are relating to them? If you notice, wherever you go, there is others. Wherever you go, there are others. At home, at work, in freeway, at vacation. Wherever you go, there are others that you're some way and somewhat relating to. I'm not talking about family relationship. I'm talking about the way you are seeing them, the way you are viewing them, who they are in your mind, what your inner chatter say about them. So the first one and the third one is the way you are relating and seeing the work and productivity and your profession. So at first is the way you seeing yourself. How do you relate to yourself? Acknowledge the way you are relating to yourself. Within ourselves, there is a way that we see ourselves, effective or ineffective, beautiful or ugly, professional or unprofessional, knowing or not knowing, peaceful or not. There is so much judgment and evaluation and lack of greatness, lack of relating to ourselves in a positive way that really will be in our way of being effective. How do you see yourself about communication? Do you see yourself that you are effective? Do you know where you are ineffective? So I don't want to make this this part about that topic, but I want you to look at yourself when it comes to communication, when it comes to how you relate to yourself. How do you see yourself? I highly recommend get your hand on that book and start reading. It's full of distinguishing these kind of elements and aspects of our psyche and our ontology. Recognize what you are gaining by pursuing your complaints about yourself and cost of it. When it comes to our judgment of ourselves, our evaluation of ourselves, most probably, near always, we are complaining about ourselves. We have some major point of complaint that we do to ourselves. Like, I can't communicate, I can't do this, I'm not good enough on that, I'm not fast enough on this. Some form of judgment and complaint. I promise you, you're getting something out of that complaint. When it comes to the point of effective communication, I promise you, you complain about yourself, about communication, and how much you know about communication, keep you away from learning how to be effective in communication. Simple complaint like, I don't know how to talk, or I don't know how to be effective, or I'm shy, or I'm pushy, or I get upset so fast. Something in communication keep you away from being effective. Distinguish who others are for you. I talked about that on the last slide. Own the way you are relating to other people. If the way you're looking at other people or relating to other people or viewing them around you is negative, condescending, and belittling as a nature of inner chatter about them, could be something like, they don't care about me, they don't love me, and nobody give me chance, it's hard to talk to them. Some form of negative and condescending and belittling inner chatter kind of forming the background of your relationship with other people or the way you view them. Find out what is in it for you by having so many opinions about others, and what are you losing by having that opinion. There's always payoff and cost in any thought, in any action. There's something you're gaining, there's something you're losing. But in this particular case, when you putting people down in your mind and in your relationship with them, and there is always they don't care about you, and you are a victim of this kind of relationship with them, what you're gaining is your position, your righteousness about why that relationship is not working. So you're using that justification to justify your actions and your behavior. Just consider that whatever opinion you have about other people is keeping you away from building a relationship with those people or having an effective communication with them. Okay, we are almost in the end of the part 1. Please contact us for your any personal and professional development needs. And please follow me, Behnam Bakhshandeh, or at Coach Behnam at all the social medias. I am available for any of your personal and professional development needs. So please continue to the part 2 of the effective communication presentation. I'm looking forward to see you in the part 2. Thank you very much.